A sealed letter from Princess Diana has resurfaced, and Prince William reportedly read it moments ago. Its contents allegedly reference Prince Harry in ways the palace never expected to confront again. What the letter reveals could reshape family loyalty, royal legacy, and the future of the crown. The letter was never meant to be opened publicly. It was reportedly written in Diana's final years, sealed with instructions that it remain private until a moment of emotional or institutional crisis. According to sources, that moment has now arrived. Prince William is said to have received the document through a secure internal channel, flagged as sensitive and historically significant. No formal announcement, no press acknowledgement, just a quiet delivery and a private reading that insiders described as deeply unsettling. Those familiar with the situation claim the letter contains reflections Diana wrote about Prince Harry, his role within the family, an emotional burden she feared he would carry as the monarchy evolved. Not predictions, but warnings. Not accusations, but concerns she believed history might one day confirm. Reports suggest Diana expressed worry that Harry would feel expendable, sidelined, or sacrificed for institutional stability. She allegedly questioned whether the system would protect him or quietly push him to the margins. While none of these claims have been officially verified, the implications have triggered renewed anxiety behind palace walls. Prince William's reaction, according to insiders, was not outwardly dramatic. Instead, it was described as controlled, reflective, and heavy with recognition. Some say he paused after reading, not in shock, but in reluctant understanding, as though he recognized patterns Diana had seen long before they became visible. Prince Harry's name reportedly appears multiple times in the letter, framed not as a problem, but as a vulnerable figure within a rigid structure. Diana is said to have written about how public expectation, family hierarchy, and emotional isolation could collide in damaging ways if left unaddressed. Meghan Markle is not mentioned directly in confirmed accounts, but sources suggest the themes within the letter align with many of the tensions that later surfaced after Harry's departure from official royal duties. The letter, reportedly, reads less like complaint and more like a maternal record of fear. What unsettles palace officials, according to unverified claims, is not only what Diana wrote, but how accurately her words appear to mirror present circumstances. Conversations once dismissed as hindsight are now being reinterpreted as foresight. There are also whispers that Diana included personal advice to William within the letter, guidance on how to treat his brother, how to avoid repeating emotional distance, how to lead without sacrificing family bonds. Whether William embraces or struggles with those words remains unknown. Some insiders believe the letter forces a reckoning, not just about Harry, but about how the monarchy handles vulnerability within its own ranks, whether it prioritizes image over empathy, whether it learns from past fractures or quietly repeats them. Behind closed doors, discussions are said to be forming around one question. If Diana anticipated this divide, what responsibility does the current generation have to address it before it deepens further? And as Prince William reportedly reflects on the letter's meaning, another question begins to surface quietly within royal circles. What else did Diana leave behind that is yet to be revealed? What gives the situation added gravity is that this letter may not have been Diana's only private record. Sources suggest it was part of a broader collection of personal reflections she kept hidden from public view, documents meant to surface only if the family faced another emotional rupture. According to reports, Prince William did not read the letter as a distant historical artifact. He reportedly read it as a message written across time, from a mother to her sons, addressing wounds she feared would reopen long after she was gone. That perspective, insiders say, has altered the emotional tone of ongoing internal discussions. Prince Harry's current position within the royal narrative is said to weigh heavily over the letter's interpretation. Diana allegedly warned that Harry's independence, sensitivity, and resistance to rigid protocol could place him at odds with institutional expectations, not as defiance, but as survival. Unverified claims suggest Diana wrote about the psychological toll of being labeled despair, and how that identity might foster resentment, isolation, or desire to escape. Her words reportedly carry a quiet urgency, as though she feared history would repeat itself if emotional needs were ignored. For Prince William, the letter is said to create a personal dilemma. On one hand, he represents continuity, responsibility, and institutional duty. On the other, he now holds a message that reportedly urges compassion, flexibility, and a more human approach to leadership. Some insiders believe William is grappling with whether Diana's concerns should influence how he approaches his relationship with Harry moving forward. Not publicly, not symbolically, but privately, as brothers rather than rivals shaped by circumstance. Meghan Markle's presence in Harry's life reportedly complicates the emotional context further. While Diana could not have foreseen Meghan specifically, sources claim the letter's themes echo the broader tension between tradition and autonomy that later defined Harry's departure. There are whispers that palace advisors are concerned about the optics if any portion of the letter becomes public. Diana remains a powerful emotional figure in the public imagination, and anything she wrote about her sons could reignite sympathy, criticism, or renewed debate about how the monarchy treats its own. At the same time, some officials reportedly fear the opposite risk, that keeping the letter entirely private could appear like suppression if its existence leaks more widely. The monarchy's past struggles with transparency make any hidden document a potential flashpoint, according to unconfirmed accounts. Discussions are underway about whether the letter should ever be acknowledged officially, not its contents, but its existence. The goal, sources suggest, would be to prevent speculation from outpacing reality. What makes this more delicate is that Diana's voice still carries moral authority. Her perspective on Harry, William, and the emotional cost of royal life could challenge long-standing narratives if interpreted publicly. Behind the scenes, the letter is reportedly being read not only as a personal message, but as a symbolic mirror, reflecting past mistakes, exposing unresolved grief, highlighting choices a family now faces in shaping its future. And as Prince William continues to process what Diana may have seen before anyone else did, a more unsettling possibility begins to circulate quietly. If this letter contained warnings about Harry, what might Diana have written about the institution itself, and how it could one day be forced to confront its own legacy? What has begun to trouble royal advisors is not only what Diana wrote about her sons, but what she may have implied about the monarchy as a system. Sources suggest the letter carries subtle criticism of the emotional costs imposed by royal tradition, framed not as rebellion, but as quiet concern. According to unverified accounts, Diana questioned whether the institution truly protects those born into it, or whether it slowly reshapes them into roles that suppress identity. Her words reportedly describe a structure that prizes composure over healing, optics over honesty, and endurance over emotional truth. Prince William is said to have recognized elements of himself in those reflections, not in a dramatic sense, but in small, uncomfortable parallels. The pressure to appear steady, the instinct to absorb strain silently, the burden of carrying expectation without complaint. Some insiders claim the letter prompted William to revisit key moments in his relationship with Prince Harry. Conversations left unfinished, misunderstandings allowed to harden, decisions that once seemed necessary, now viewed through the lens of Diana's warnings. Prince Harry's distance from the family reportedly feels less like defiance in this context and more like the outcome Diana feared, a gradual withdrawal driven by emotional fatigue rather than ambition. Whether William fully accepts that framing remains unclear, but the comparison has reportedly lingered. Meghan Markle's influence is also being re-examined in light of the letter's themes, not as a catalyst for division, but as someone who reinforced Harry's desire for autonomy and emotional self-preservation. Sources suggest palace strategists are privately reconsidering whether earlier judgments about her role were overly simplistic. At the institutional level, the letter is said to raise uncomfortable questions. If Diana anticipated emotional harm within the system, what responsibility does the monarchy bear to evolve? Can tradition coexist with psychological well-being, or does one inevitably erode the other? There are unconfirmed claims that William has requested internal briefings on how younger royals are supported behind the scenes. Not publicly, but quietly. Mental health resources, media exposure protocols, emotional safeguards that were less developed during Diana's era. Some advisors reportedly view this as overdue. Others worry it signals a softening of royal posture that could be interpreted as vulnerability. The tension between appearing resilient and becoming more humane remains unresolved. What makes Diana's letter especially powerful is its timing. Written decades ago, yet resonating amid current fractures, It reportedly reads less like a historical artifact and more like a delayed intervention, arriving at a moment when the family's emotional fault lines are already visible. Behind palace walls, there is said to be a growing realization that Diana's legacy extends beyond public memory. Her perspective may now influence how the monarchy frames family loyalty, conflict resolution, and emotional cost of duty. For Prince William, this reportedly creates a quiet crossroads. Continue governing with traditional restraint, or subtly shift toward a model that reflects Diana's warnings and Harry's experience. Neither path is without consequence. And as the meaning of Diana's words continues to unfold, another development begins to gather attention, because sources suggest the letter may not have been Diana's final message, and what follows could carry even greater emotional and institutional weight. What makes the situation increasingly sensitive is a suggestion that Diana's sealed letter was never intended to stand alone. Sources claim it references additional notes, personal recordings, or private correspondences she left behind, each meant to reveal fragments of her thinking at different stages of her life. According to unverified accounts, Diana anticipated that certain truths about her marriage, her sons, and the monarchy itself might only be understood years later. Her writing is said to reflect a belief that time, distance, and maturity would eventually allow her children to interpret her words without anger or distortion. Prince William is reportedly aware that the letter places him in a uniquely difficult position. As both Diana's son and the future of the institution she struggled within, he must weigh personal emotion against public responsibility. Insiders describe a quiet internal conflict between honoring his mother's perspective and preserving institutional stability. Prince Harry's absence from this process reportedly feels more pronounced as the letter's meaning deepens. Diana's words are said to carry a tone of protectiveness toward him, emphasizing his sensitivity, his need for emotional freedom, and his vulnerability to being misunderstood. For some within the palace, this reframes Harry not as a disruptor, but as a product of unresolved strain. There are whispers that William has considered whether to share portions of the letter privately with Harry, not as a public gesture, not as reconciliation theater, but as a personal acknowledgement that Diana's concerns deserve recognition within the family itself. Whether this step will ever be taken remains uncertain. Meghan Markle's role continues to shape how the letter is interpreted behind the scenes. Some advisors reportedly believe Diana's reflections align with Meghan's criticism of royal rigidity and emotional detachment. Others fear that any perceived alignment could amplify public narratives of institutional failure. At the same time, palace officials are said to be preparing for the possibility that the letter's existence could leak. Diana's enduring cultural influence means even vague references could reignite intense media attention. In this context, secrecy is seen as both protection and risk. Institutionally, the letter has reportedly triggered broader conversations about how the monarchy handles private suffering, whether emotional resilience is encouraged or merely expected, whether silence is a form of dignity or a mechanism of suppression. Sources suggest Prince William is increasingly aware that Diana's legacy is not just emotional, but symbolic. Her story continues to shape how the public interprets royal conflict, compassion, and moral authority. Any decision involving her words carries consequences beyond the family. What complicates matters further is the sense that Diana wrote with intention, not to provoke scandal, but to leave behind guidance, perspective, and caution for moments like this. Her voice, though absent, reportedly feels present in ongoing deliberations. Behind closed doors, there is growing acknowledgement that the letter may become a turning point, not in policy, but in posture, in how the monarchy speaks about vulnerability, in how it addresses internal fractures, in how it defines responsibility toward its own members. And as Prince William continues to wrestle with what Diana foresaw, attention quietly shifts toward a final question. If her sealed letter carried this much emotional weight, what happens if something even more personal from Diana's private legacy is revealed next? What ultimately makes Diana's letter so powerful is not just what it says about the past, but what it forces the present to confront. Sources suggest Prince William now carries more than a family secret. He carries a choice that could quietly shape the monarchy's emotional future. According to unverified accounts, William has not shared the letter widely. Instead, he is said to be holding it close, rereading key passages, reflecting on what his mother hoped he might do differently from those before him, not as a public statement, but as a private compass. Prince Harry remains a silent center of this reckoning. Diana's words reportedly frame him not as a problem to manage, but as a son to protect from the emotional costs of royal life. That framing, insiders claim, has complicated long-standing assumptions about his role in recent family conflicts. There are whispers that William now sees Harry's distance through a different lens, less as rejection, more as self-preservation. Whether that shift leads to any tangible change remains unclear, but the emotional recalibration itself is said to be significant. Meghan Markle's presence in Harry's life continues to shape how palace figures interpret the situation. Some privately suggest Diana might have understood Meghan's instinct to shield her family from institutional pressure. Others worry that such parallels, if made public, could further challenge the monarchy's credibility. Behind the scenes, advisors are reportedly focused on one central concern: containment without erasure. Diana's legacy is too emotionally powerful to dismiss, yet too sensitive to fully expose. Every option carries risk. Silence invites speculation. Disclosure invites reinterpretation. What remains consistent across accounts is the sense that Diana's voice has returned at a pivotal moment, not to reopen old wounds, but to illuminate patterns that never fully healed. Her perspective is said to feel less like a disruption and more like a delayed intervention. Prince William now stands at an emotional crossroads. Continue forward as tradition dictates, or quietly allow Diana's warnings to soften how the institution handles family, conflict, and vulnerability. Neither path offers certainty. Both carry consequences. The monarchy, long built on composure and continuity, now faces a subtler test, not of power, not of protocol, but of empathy, memory, and whether it can evolve without losing its identity. And as Diana's sealed words continue to echo through private halls, one truth grows harder to ignore. Sometimes the most dangerous secrets are not the ones meant to shock the world, but the ones meant protected from repeating the same mistakes. If you want to stay ahead of what unfolds next inside the royal family, keep watching.